Welcome on this beautiful and fitting day. We're gathered here to commemorate National POW Missing in Action Recognition Day. Today we honor those who were held as prisoners of war and those still missing in action. It's a day when we can tell those who are here and those who have not yet returned, you are never forgotten. I'd like to first spend a moment remembering our nation's former prisoners of war. These men went through the fire of war and captivity and emerged on the other side. While we will never know all that they endured, we give them our deepest respect, honor, and gratitude. We're fortunate enough to have one of them here today, serving as a living, breathing example of the warrior ethos at its best. Rear Admiral Robert Shoemaker spent over 8 years as a POW in Vietnam. He actually coined the phrase, the Hanoi Hilton. Please stand up and be recognized for your bravery and service. Thank you, Admiral. I hope someday my kids and grandkids come to understand what that would take. The sheer courage, the fortitude it would take. Yeah, and most Americans, I can't fathom. But we have such men. And may we always honor and recognize them. Thank you. We also want to recognize the families of those who went missing in action. Your Gold Star families who have sacrificed and carry a heavy burden. Miss Jeannie Huffman is one of those. She was just 5 months old when her father, Navy Commander Edward James Jacobs Jr., went missing off the Vietnam coast in 1967. I had a chance to meet her just moments ago. She gave me her father's bracelet. This year, she designed our National POW MIA Recognition Day poster, a copy of which is on your program. On the poster are a Marine and 4 Army ROTC cadets from Old Dominion University. They're in period uniforms, all pointing in one way or another, binoculars, compass, radio, all pointing to the way home. All of the cadets are here and represent the future of the warrior ethos. Welcome to all of them, and to Jeannie. Jeannie, if you would stand, please. Thank you very much. We have combat veterans here today as well. You have a unique perspective. You all served alongside those who went MIA, shoulder to shoulder, and you long for your brothers in arms to return home. Thank you for your service and your unfailing devotion. And thank you to the ambassadors and defense attachés that are here today as well. Your partnership and cooperation with other nations helps ensure we find and recover our warriors in far-flung nations. I've met many of you, and that persistence and dedication on the ground ultimately is what culminates in these returns and these remains. At the Department of War, we are working every day to restore the warrior ethos. And one of those elements, core elements of the warrior ethos, is I will never leave a fallen comrade. It is our sacred duty to uphold that ethos and ensure that we return whenever possible, and until the end, every fallen hero. There are nearly 81,000 MIA who never made it back home. World War II, Cold War, Korean War, Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf Wars. Many of them were prisoners of war as well. And it's our mission to deliver a final answer to the families who lie awake, asking God for the return of their loved one. Again, most of us cannot imagine. It's our mission to return them to American soil and provide a final resting place here at home for the heroes who fought for their country. It is our commitment to you that we will work unceasingly to bring our warriors home, and we will never forget their service and sacrifice. The department's agency that's primarily responsible for that sacred mission is the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency. It is their sole objective to provide the fullest possible accounting for our missing personnel and their families and the nation. using painstaking historical research, exhaustive on-the-ground excavations, and the most advanced forensic science techniques, the DPAA is steadfast in its accounting for missing Americans, no matter how far away, no matter how long ago. Earlier this year, because it was one of our priorities, I had the opportunity to visit one of the DPAA's forensic laboratories. And I was floored by the dedication and the talent of their over 700 military and civilian professionals. Again, Americans working quietly in far-flung places to keep the promise we made to these troops. While I was there, DPAA's identification of the 100th service member identified from remains turned over by North Korea in 2018 was announced, thanks to a historic agreement secured by President Trump in his first term. Army First Lieutenant William H. Hopp, an Ohio native, was killed in action in 1950 in North Korea and was missing in action until his remains were repatriated 78 years later. DPAA identified Lieutenant Hopp this year, and he finally received a military funeral last month back home in Ohio, where he is now buried, fittingly, next to his parents. It matters. Over the years, the DPAA has returned the remains of thousands of Americans to their families, given them long-sought answers and some semblance of closure, and the opportunity to finally lay their loved ones to rest. So far this fiscal year, DPAA has identified 220 personnel, an unprecedented number, including 157 from World War II, 55 from the Korean War, and 8 from Vietnam. One of those recently identified was Navy Captain Thomas Shurich of Norfolk, Nebraska. He was killed during the Vietnam War conducting a night strike mission over northern Vietnam. After decades of investigations yielding no results, a recovery team last year recovered material evidence and human remains from a remote and overgrown crash site. DPAA analyzed the remains and identified the captain this past April. His funeral will be in this November, at Arlington National Cemetery. And today I would like to announce for the first time that the DPAA recently identified the remains of U.S. Army Captain Willibald C. Bianchi, a Minnesota native. Captain Bianchi served in the Philippines, during which he received multiple wounds in battle and still volunteered to clear Japanese machine gun nests. For his valorous actions, he was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. He was later captured and survived the Bataan Death March. Then he moved between POW camps where he saved the lives of several other POWs. He then survived the inadvertent bombing of a Japanese POW transport ship and was eventually killed in the mistaken sinking of the Inora Maru, another Japanese ship transporting American POWs at the time. Bianchi's accounting is part of the DPAA's laboratory's Inora Maru project, which aims to identify the 431 unknowns associated with the ship's sinking. Thanks to their steadfast work, Captain Bianchi will be coming home to his family in New Ulm, Minnesota. We'll finally be able to give him the burial he deserves 80 years later. We are privileged this beautiful morning to have Captain Bianchi's family with us. If you would, please stand. I had a chance to meet them before this ceremony as well, a nephew and 3 nieces, all from New Ulm, Minnesota, which is a Minnesota native, born and raised not that many miles away. I'm familiar with New Ulm. And whether it's New Ulm, Minnesota, or Forest Lake, Minnesota, where I'm from, or Wanamingo, Minnesota, where my parents from, or Iowa, or Ohio, when you add up all the memorial days and the memorial parks and the small places and the graveyards, when you add up all those small towns, and it gives you a tiny sense of the depth of the investment that is required on behalf of free people. So today we honor New Ulm, and we should, and it'll go back to the town, and that will be properly But may we remember every single New Ulm, every single Wanamingo, every single Forest Lake across our entire country, and those who left those small towns and big towns to serve our nation. We've also accounted for many other war heroes this year, too many to list. But each of them represents a soul, a life given for the sake of our country. Each of these identifications means that we can eventually properly honor a warrior who died for his brothers in arms and his fellow Americans. DPAA will show an unwavering dedication and passion, ensuring that we do right by our troops and their families. There remain over 38,000 Americans across the world unaccounted for and estimated to be recoverable. They are our goal. Their Gold Star families still carry a void in heart and mind that passes from generation to generation. That is my commitment to you. On behalf of the entire War Department, we will never stop, we will never cease, we will never give up the final commitment to the final act of the greatest Americans. Prisoners of war, those missing in action, and their families have borne the greatest sacrifices for our country that we can imagine. We owe them an immeasurable debt. They gave the greatest possible sacrifice you could give on the altar of freedom. We will never leave them, and we will not forget them. Because what we do now for them then says a lot about us today, and we all pray that someday a Secretary of War here, 50 years from now, on this field, is ensuring that anyone lost in future battlefields is brought home. It's all I want for myself, for my kids, for our generation of warriors, is the same level of commitment that's unrelenting and never stops. So thank you for all you've given. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for this commitment, and God bless our warriors. Thank you.
Would all families representing prisoners of war and those still missing in action please stand to be honored?